Shaine Carter, a beloved late-night DJ at Pulse FM, never thought her work would pull her into something as personal as a love confession. Her show, Late Night Confessions, was a space for anonymous letters where people shared their deepest thoughts, regrets, or unspoken feelings. Shaine, with her warm and magnetic voice, always made her listeners feel heard, offering advice or simply being a kind voice on the other end of the airwaves. It was her way of giving comfort, and she cherished the quiet connection with her listeners. It was an ordinary Tuesday night when she received the first letter from someone signed simply as M. Unlike the usual, casual confessions, this letter had a depth of vulnerability that caught her attention. I live in a world where everything looks perfect, where everyone knows me by name, but no one sees me for who I really am. All I want is someone who can look beyond the titles and the wealth and see the man behind the success. Shaine read the letter aloud on her show, pausing after every line. There was something about this man's loneliness that resonated deeply with her. He seemed lost in a world that saw only his power, and despite his success, he felt isolated. After she finished reading, she sighed softly into the microphone. "Sometimes," she said, "we get so wrapped up in what people think we should be that we forget to let them see who we really are. Maybe you just need to find that one person who isn't looking at your status, but at you." On the other side of the city, Miguel Alvaro, the CEO of Alvaro Enterprises, sat in his luxurious penthouse with a glass of scotch in hand, listening to the radio. The DJ's response to his letter hit him harder than he expected. Shaine's voice, soft, understanding, and full of empathy, felt like the only real thing in his life. For the first time in a long while, Miguel felt seen, even though she didn't know who he was. This was how it began. A businessman who had everything but felt like he had nothing, and a DJ who offered understanding without knowing the depths of the connection she had started. Over the following weeks, Shaine noticed that she looked forward to receiving letters from M. His confessions became a regular part of her show, each one revealing more about the loneliness he felt behind his wealth and success. He talked about the pressures of being in the public eye, of people constantly watching him, waiting for him to fail, or worse, using him for his money. Shaine found herself responding with heartfelt advice, and sometimes her own reflections on life. She wondered who this mysterious M could be. Was he really as powerful and successful as he claimed? Or was he simply a man searching for someone to understand him? As she continued reading his letters on air, her listeners became captivated by the ongoing story, speculating who M might be. But for Shaine, it became something personal, a connection she couldn't quite explain. Meanwhile, Miguel kept sending the letters, unable to stop. He was growing more and more attached to Shaine, even though they had never met. Her voice had become his nightly escape, and he found himself tuning into her show every evening. His days were filled with business meetings, high-profile events, and running one of the most successful corporations in the country, but his nights belonged to Shaine and her show. Miguel wasn't sure when it had happened, but somewhere along the way, he had fallen for her. This woman with the kind voice, who always knew exactly what to say to ease his burdens. But there was one thing stopping him from revealing himself: fear. Fear that if she knew who he really was, she would see him as everyone else did. A powerful CEO, not the vulnerable man behind the letters. Fate, however, had other plans. One day, Miguel was invited to a charity gala held by one of his company's largest partners. It was the kind of event he attended out of obligation rather than desire. While most of the city's elite would be there, he knew he would spend the evening schmoozing with other business leaders, making deals and exchanging pleasantries, all while longing to be elsewhere. Unbeknownst to him, Pulse FM was the entertainment sponsor for the evening. Shaine, who rarely made public appearances, had been asked to DJ the event as part of the station's contribution. When she arrived, she felt out of place among the wealthy and powerful guests, but she reminded herself that she was here for the music, not to mingle with people she had nothing in common with. As Miguel entered the grand ballroom, his eyes scanned the room, looking for an escape from the endless small talk. That's when he saw her, Shaine, standing near the DJ booth, setting up her equipment. Though he didn't know what she looked like before this moment, something about her presence drew him in. There was a warmth to her that matched the voice he had grown so fond of. He found himself walking toward her, heart pounding with anticipation. When she looked up and caught his gaze, there was an instant connection, even though neither of them knew the full truth of who the other was. "Hi," Miguel said, offering a charming smile. "I don't think I've seen you around before." Shaine smiled back, a little nervously. "I'm not usually at events like this. I'm just the DJ." "The DJ?" Miguel raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "I didn't think someone like you would be working here tonight." "What do you mean, someone like me?" Shaine asked, a teasing glint in her eye. Miguel chuckled. "I meant someone with as much presence as you. You seem different from the rest of the crowd." Shaine laughed softly, not realizing the weight of his words. "Well, I try to be, but I'm just here to play music." As the night progressed, they shared brief but meaningful conversations whenever Miguel could break away from the crowd. Shaine found herself charmed by him, even though she wasn't sure what he did for a living. He was surprisingly down to earth for someone attending such a high-profile event. Little did she know, this was the man behind the letters, the man whose words had touched her so deeply in the weeks leading up to this night. After their encounter at the charity gala, Miguel couldn't stop thinking about Shaine. He knew now that she was the DJ he had been listening to for weeks, the voice that had become his lifeline. But still, he kept his identity as M a secret. The thought of her finding out who he was, and possibly rejecting him, was too much to bear. Miguel started frequenting the coffee shop near the Pulse FM station, hoping to bump into her again. Eventually, they did cross paths, and a casual friendship began to form. Shaine found herself looking forward to their chance meetings, enjoying the easy banter and connection they shared. As they spent more time together, Shaine began to notice something different about Miguel. He wasn't like the other wealthy men she had encountered. He was thoughtful, introspective, and seemed to genuinely care about her. But still, she couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. At the same time, Miguel's feelings for Shaine deepened. The more time he spent with her, the more he realized how different she was from the people in his world. She saw the world with such clarity and honesty, something he longed for in his own life. But as their connection grew stronger, so did Miguel's fear of the truth coming out. Could he really tell Shaine that he was the same man behind the letters? Would she still want him if she knew he was the CEO of one of the most powerful companies in the country? And could he ever fully bridge the gap between their worlds? The answers to these questions would shape the course of their love story, but for now, Miguel could only hope that fate would continue to guide them closer together. As weeks passed, Miguel and Shaine's encounters became more frequent. Miguel, now completely smitten, began rearranging his busy schedule just to have coffee or a quick chat with her. What started as casual run-ins soon blossomed into planned meetings, though neither of them would outright admit that. Their conversations flowed easily, and Shaine found herself feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time, a genuine connection. Shaine, however, remained blissfully unaware that her new friend was the CEO of Alvaro Enterprises, the largest corporation in the city. To her, Miguel was just a kind, thoughtful man who frequented her favorite cafe. In her mind, he was someone like her, ordinary, grounded, and relatable. She often found herself daydreaming about him, wondering what he did for a living and why he always seemed so calm and confident. One afternoon, after yet another delightful coffee conversation, Miguel gathered the courage to ask Shaine out on an official date. "I know we keep running into each other, but how about we plan something little more intentional? Dinner, maybe?" he asked with a soft smile, his heart racing. Shaine, surprised and a little flustered, felt a warmth rise to her cheeks. Dinner? Like an actual date? Miguel nodded, his eyes twinkling with amusement. Yes, like an actual date. Shaine hesitated for a moment. She wasn't used to dating, especially not someone who seemed as charming and put together as Miguel. But there was something about him, something that made her feel safe. "Okay, dinner sounds nice," she finally agreed, her heart skipping a beat. That night, Shaine couldn't help but wonder about the mysterious Miguel. He had never mentioned his job or his family, and though she had grown close to him, there were still so many unknowns. Little did she know, Miguel was grappling with his own fears. Fears that telling Shaine the truth about his identity would shatter the delicate bond they had formed. The night of their date arrived, and Shaine was a bundle of nerves. She had chosen a simple yet elegant dress, hoping to strike the right balance between casual and sophisticated. When Miguel arrived to pick her up, he looked as handsome as ever, dressed in a sleek suit that hugged his frame perfectly. For a moment, Shaine felt a pang of insecurity. Was she really good enough for a man like him? Miguel, on the other hand, couldn't take his eyes off her. Shaine looked stunning, her beauty radiating in the dim evening light. He held out his arm, and she took it, the warmth of his touch calming her nerves. They arrived at a cozy, intimate restaurant tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. It wasn't the high-end, flashy kind of place Miguel was used to, but he had chosen it specifically for Shaine. He wanted her to feel comfortable, not overwhelmed by the opulence of his usual world. Throughout the evening, their conversation flowed effortlessly, as if they had known each other for years. They laughed, shared stories, and opened up about their hopes and dreams. For the first time in a long time, Miguel felt like he could be himself, just a man, not the powerful CEO everyone expected him to be. As the night wore on, Shaine found herself falling deeper for Miguel. He was attentive, kind, and genuinely interested in everything she had to say. She had dated before, but none of her past relationships had felt like this. There was something different about Miguel, something that made her heart flutter in a way she hadn't felt in years. By the end of the night, they both knew that this wasn't just a casual fling. There was something real between them, something that neither of them could ignore. As they stood outside her apartment building, Miguel leaned in and pressed a gentle kiss to her cheek. "I had a wonderful time tonight," he whispered, his voice low and sincere. Shaine smiled, her heart racing. "Me too, Miguel. Me too." As their relationship deepened, Miguel found it harder and harder to keep his true identity a secret. He had never intended to lie to Shaine, but the longer he went without telling her the truth, the more complicated it became. He feared that revealing himself as the CEO of Alvaro Enterprises would change everything between them, that she would see him differently, or worse, that she would feel betrayed. Meanwhile, Shaine continued to fall for Miguel, completely unaware of the secret he was keeping. She loved how grounded and humble he seemed, qualities she hadn't expected from someone who always appeared so confident and self-assured. In her mind, Miguel was perfect, a man who wasn't caught up in the materialism of the world, who saw her for who she was, not what she could offer him. But cracks in Miguel's facade began to show. One day, while they were out for lunch, a well-dressed man approached their table with a deferential nod. "Mr. Alvaro, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need your approval on the merger documents before the end of the day." Shaine's eyes widened in shock. "Mr. Alvaro?" she repeated, turning to Miguel in confusion. Miguel froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He hadn't expected to be recognized, especially not in front of Shaine. For a moment, he considered brushing it off, pretending it was a misunderstanding. But the look on Shaine's face told him that he couldn't keep the truth from her any longer. Taking a deep breath, Miguel turned to her. "Shaine, there's something I need to tell you." Miguel led Shaine to a quiet park nearby, away from the prying eyes of the public. As they sat on a bench under the shade of a large oak tree, Miguel finally confessed everything. "I'm not just Miguel, the guy who likes coffee and listens to your radio show," he began, his voice heavy with guilt. "I'm Miguel Alvaro, CEO of Alvaro Enterprises. The letters I sent to your show, the ones from M, those were from me." Shaine stared at him, her mind racing. She had never imagined that the man she had fallen for was the head of one of the biggest companies in the country. And the letters? The confessions that had touched her so deeply, they had come from Miguel all along? For a moment, she didn't know what to say. The man she had grown to care for had been keeping such a huge part of his life from her. She felt a mix of emotions, confusion, betrayal, and hurt. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Miguel ran a hand through his hair, looking down at the ground. I didn't want you to see me the way everyone else does. I wanted you to know me for who I am, not for what I am. I was afraid that if you knew, you would treat me differently, or worse, that you would walk away. Shaine's heart ached at his words. She understood his fear, but it didn't make the situation any easier to process. She had fallen for Miguel, the man who had made her laugh, who had listened to her late-night musings, who had made her feel seen. But now, she wasn't sure if she could separate that man from the powerful CEO sitting next to her. I need some time to think, she finally said, her voice soft but firm. This is a lot to take in. Miguel nodded, his heart sinking. He had known this day would come, but that didn't make it any less painful. I understand, he said quietly. Take all the time you need. I hope you can forgive me. As Shaine walked away, her mind swirled with questions. Could she forgive Miguel for hiding such a huge part of his life? Could she still trust him after everything? And most importantly, could she still love him, knowing the truth? These questions would linger in her mind in the days to come, as she tried to make sense of the whirlwind her life had become. Shaine spent the next few days in a whirlwind of emotions. She barely ate, and she couldn't sleep without thinking about Miguel, now revealed as Miguel Alvaro, the CEO of Alvaro Enterprises. The revelation had hit her hard, and she felt torn between the man she thought she knew and the reality of his identity. She replayed their moments together over and over in her head. Their laughter, their deep conversations, their growing bond. Was it all real? Did Miguel's feelings come from a genuine place, or was she just another pawn in a game for the rich and powerful? Shaine was no stranger to the divide between the rich and poor. Her entire life had been a struggle, working tirelessly as a DJ to make ends meet while Miguel, unbeknownst to her, moved in a world of wealth and influence. On one hand, her heart longed for the Miguel she had come to know. He had been kind, attentive, and had given her hope when she had felt lost. But on the other hand, the secret he had kept weighed heavily on her. Could she trust him again? She debated whether to confront him or to move on, and with each passing hour, her internal conflict only deepened. Eventually, she made a decision. She needed answers, and the only way to get them was to speak to Miguel. She had to know why he had hidden the truth, and if their relationship could survive the deception. That evening, she gathered her thoughts and summoned the courage to face Miguel. Shaine decided to meet Miguel at the park where they had shared their first kiss, hoping the familiarity of the place would help ease the tension. As she approached, she saw Miguel already waiting for her. He looked anxious, the weight of his secret clearly taking a toll on him. "Shaine," he said softly as she approached, his eyes filled with regret. Shaine took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "I need to understand, Miguel. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you keep this massive part of your life hidden from me?" Miguel sighed, running a hand through his hair as he looked at the ground. "I didn't plan for things to get this far without telling you. I thought that once you got to know me, really know me, it wouldn't matter what my title was. But the more time we spent together, the more scared I became. I didn't want you to see me as the CEO or a wealthy businessman. I wanted you to see me as just Miguel. I wanted you to love me for me." Shaine crossed her arms, her expression conflicted. "And what if I couldn't? What if I'm not cut out to be part of your world? You come from privilege, and I come from, well, I'm just a DJ. Our worlds couldn't be more different." Miguel stepped closer, his voice filled with emotion. "I don't care about those differences, Shaine. I care about you. From the moment I started listening to your radio show, I knew you were someone special. Meeting you in person only confirmed that. I'm not asking you to change or to fit into my world. I'm asking you to let me be part of yours." Shaine's heart clenched. His words felt genuine, but the hurt of his deception still lingered. "It's not just about the differences, Miguel. It's about trust. How can I know that you won't hide something else from me?" Miguel's face softened, and he reached for her hand, gently holding it in his. "I swear to you, Shaine, I will never keep anything from you again. I made a mistake, and I know I hurt you. but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn back your trust." Shaine looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of insincerity, but all she saw was regret and hope. After what felt like an eternity, she nodded, though uncertainty still clung to her heart. "I need time, Miguel. I need to figure this out." Miguel squeezed her hand gently, his voice tender. "Take all the time you need. I'll wait for you. Just don't give up on us." Days turned into weeks, and although Shaine hadn't completely distanced herself from Miguel, she hadn't fully embraced him either. They met a few times, but there was a palpable distance between them, a space that Shaine wasn't yet ready to bridge. Meanwhile, Miguel's identity became the talk of the town. When a popular tabloid spotted them together at the park during their confrontation, rumors began swirling about the powerful CEO dating a nobody DJ. Reporters hounded Shaine's workplace, hoping for a scoop, while Miguel's reputation as a calm and collected businessman was put under scrutiny. For Shaine, this sudden influx of attention was overwhelming. Her peaceful life as an anonymous radio DJ was gone, replaced by questions, stares, and judgment from people who didn't know her. One particularly cruel article claimed she was only with Miguel for his money, painting her as a gold digger. At the station, Shaine's colleagues began treating her differently. They gossiped behind her back, and the once warm and friendly atmosphere became strained. Even her manager, who had once been supportive, seemed to question her motives for being with Miguel. It was clear that her world had been irreversibly changed by her connection to him. One day, as Shaine sat in the studio preparing for her evening show, she received a call from an anonymous listener. At first, she thought it was just another fan, but the tone of the caller's voice sent chills down her spine. "Enjoy it while it lasts, Shaine," the caller said coldly. "Men like Miguel don't settle for women like you." Shaine hung up, shaken to her core. Was this how it was going to be from now on? Could she ever truly be with Miguel when his world seemed so hostile to hers? After the threatening call, Shaine felt like she was standing at a crossroads. The pressure from the outside world, the cruel whispers, and her own insecurities were building up, and she began to wonder if a future with Miguel was even possible. One evening, after her show, Shaine found herself wandering the city streets, lost in thought. She walked past luxurious boutiques, towering office buildings, and high-end restaurants, places where Miguel fit perfectly, but where she felt like an outsider. She had grown up in a modest household, worked her way through college, and had never been part of the elite circles Miguel belonged to. Her phone buzzed with a message from Miguel. "I miss you, Shaine. I'm here when you're ready." Tears welled in her eyes as she read his words. She missed him too, terribly. But could love really bridge the gap between their two worlds? Could she handle the scrutiny, the judgment, the pressure that came with being the girlfriend of a billionaire CEO? Just then, her phone rang. It was her best friend, Mia, who had been her confidant through this whole ordeal. "Shaine, I heard what happened at the station. Are you okay?" Shaine sighed, her voice heavy with exhaustion. "I don't know, Mia. I feel like I'm drowning. Everywhere I go, people are judging me. I'm not sure if I can do this, if I can be with Miguel." Mia was silent for a moment before speaking softly. "You love him, don't you?" Shaine nodded, even though Mia couldn't see her. "Yeah, I do." "Then that's all that matters. People are going to talk no matter what you do, but you have to decide if Miguel is worth fighting for. Is he?" Shaine wiped away a tear, her heart aching with the weight of the decision before her. Was Miguel worth it? Was their love strong enough to overcome the obstacles? As she stood there, gazing out at the bustling city, Shaine realized that the answer had been there all along. Yes, their worlds were different. Yes, the challenges were immense. But at the core of it all, she loved Miguel, and he loved her. And that, she decided, was worth fighting for. With the decision to fight for Miguel and their love firmly in her heart, Shaine knew she needed to make things right. The judgment from the outside world, the rumors, and the invasive attention had weighed her down, but she was ready to rise above it all. Miguel's sincerity, patience, and unwavering love had been enough to convince her that their bond was stronger than any gossip or social divide. The next morning, Shaine gathered her thoughts and called Mia. "I've made up my mind, Mia. I'm going to tell Miguel how I feel." Mia, ever the supportive friend, smiled through the phone. "I knew you would. Just be honest with him, Shaine. You two have something real. Don't let anything get in the way." Shaine hung up and spent the day preparing for what she hoped would be a new chapter in her relationship with Miguel. She decided to surprise him at his office, Alvaro Enterprises. She had never been there before, always avoiding the towering glass building that symbolized the vast difference between their worlds. But this time, she wasn't afraid. She was determined. As Shaine approached the sleek entrance of Alvaro Enterprises, her heart raced. The bustling atmosphere and impeccably dressed employees only reminded her of how far removed she was from Miguel's world. Still, she held her head high and walked through the doors, requesting to meet with Miguel. After waiting for what felt like an eternity, the receptionist led her to Miguel's private office. As she entered the spacious, modern room, her eyes locked with Miguel's, who stood behind his desk, surprised to see her. "Shaine," Miguel whispered, standing up, his eyes filled with emotion. "I wasn't expecting you." Shaine walked closer, her heart pounding. "Miguel, I came to tell you something important." He motioned for her to sit down, but she shook her head, wanting to stand as she spoke. "I've been struggling for weeks, trying to figure out if I'm strong enough to be with you. The media, the people, your world. Everything is so different from mine. But I've realized something." She paused, taking a deep breath. "I love you, Miguel, and no matter how hard it is, I don't want to let anything or anyone tear us apart. I'm willing to fight for this, for us." Miguel's eyes softened, and he walked over to her, gently taking her hands in his. "Shaine, I've been waiting to hear those words. I love you too, more than anything. I don't care about the rumors or what anyone else thinks. All that matters to me is you." Tears welled up in Shaine's eyes, but this time they were tears of relief and happiness. "I don't want to lose you, Miguel." "You never will," Miguel whispered, pulling her into his arms and holding her close. "We'll face everything together. I promise." As Shaine and Miguel's relationship deepened, the world outside grew increasingly interested in their love story. The media couldn't get enough of the unlikely couple, painting Shaine as the ordinary girl who had captured the heart of one of the city's most powerful men. Their story quickly became the talk of tabloids, social media, and business circles. For Miguel, who was used to being in the spotlight, the attention was nothing new. He knew how to navigate the press and avoid the traps of public scrutiny. But for Shaine, it was overwhelming. She found herself constantly under a microscope, her every move analyzed and criticized. Even her colleagues at the radio station couldn't resist making snide remarks. One afternoon, Shaine received a visit from her station manager, who had noticed the increased attention on her. "Shaine, your popularity is skyrocketing, but I have to ask, are you sure you want to be involved with Miguel Alvaro? People are talking, and not all of it is positive." Shaine, tired of the constant judgment, responded firmly, "I'm with Miguel because I love him, not because of his status. I understand that people are going to talk, but I'm not going to let that dictate my choices." The manager seemed taken aback by her confidence, but nodded. "Just be careful. The media can be brutal." Shaine thanked him for his concern, but she knew that she had made the right decision. She was ready to stand by Miguel's side, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, Miguel was dealing with pressure from within his company. Some of his business associates questioned his judgment, hinting that being with someone from such a different background might tarnish his image. One particular board member, Henry Valencia, took it upon himself to express his concerns. "Miguel," Henry said during a private meeting, "you've built an empire, and your reputation is impeccable, but this relationship with Shaine, it's causing quite a stir. Some of us are worried that it might reflect poorly on the company." Miguel's expression hardened. "My personal life has no bearing on my ability to run this company, Henry. I expect my board to respect my decisions, both in business and in my personal matters." Henry, realizing he had overstepped, nodded quickly. "Of course, Miguel. I didn't mean to imply otherwise." As the days passed, Shaine and Miguel became more accustomed to the scrutiny. They supported each other, and their bond only grew stronger. But just as they thought they had weathered the worst, a new challenge emerged, one that would test their love like never before. While Shaine and Miguel had been focusing on their relationship, a shadow from Shaine's past began to surface. A man named Daniel, a former acquaintance from Shaine's early days as a DJ, resurfaced, eager to take advantage of the attention surrounding her newfound fame. Daniel had once been obsessed with Shaine, but when she had rejected his advances years ago, he had left the city. Now, seeing her in the limelight, Daniel became consumed with jealousy and a desire to ruin what Shaine had built with Miguel. He began by reaching out to gossip blogs, spreading false stories about his relationship with Shaine. He claimed they had been in a long-term relationship and that Shaine had used him to climb the ranks in the radio world. The stories quickly spread, with sensationalized headlines tarnishing Shaine's reputation. Miguel's girlfriend's dark past exposed, one article read. Shaine was horrified when she saw the articles. None of this is true, Miguel. I barely know Daniel. Miguel, calm and composed, sat down with Shaine. I believe you, Shaine. This is just another attempt to tear us apart, but we won't let them. Despite Miguel's reassurance, the false stories caused significant damage. Shaine's radio station received complaints from listeners, and her job was suddenly at risk. Even worse, some of Miguel's business partners began questioning his association with her. Determined to protect Shaine, Miguel launched his own investigation into Daniel's claims, hiring a private investigator to gather evidence of the truth. It wasn't long before they uncovered Daniel's lies and his motives for revenge. Miguel held a press conference, publicly denouncing the rumors and exposing Daniel's deceit. My relationship with Shaine is based on love and trust, and we will not allow baseless accusations to damage what we have, he told the press. Anyone who spreads lies about her will face the consequences. Miguel's public defense of Shaine was a turning point. The media's tone shifted, and Shaine was finally able to clear her name. The pressure began to ease, but the experience left a mark on both of them. After the ordeal with Daniel, Shaine and Miguel took some time to focus on themselves and their relationship. They realized that while they had overcome many obstacles, the road ahead would still be challenging. Shaine, who had always been independent, struggled with the idea of relying on Miguel for protection. I don't want to always feel like I need you to save me, she admitted one evening as they sat together on Miguel's balcony, overlooking the city. Miguel gently took her hand. You're not weak, Shaine. You've handled everything with incredible strength. But we're a team now. We protect each other. Shaine smiled softly, leaning her head against his shoulder. I just want to make sure that I can stand on my own, even with everything happening around us. And you will, Miguel assured her. I fell in love with you because of who you are. Strong, independent, and resilient. Nothing can take that away. As they held each other under the night sky, Shaine knew that while they still had battles to face, they were stronger together. The trials they had endured had only solidified their love, and with trust and honesty as their foundation, nothing could tear them apart. But they had no idea that another storm was brewing, one that would challenge their love in ways they couldn't yet imagine. As things began to settle down after the ordeal with Daniel, Shaine and Miguel were finally in a comfortable place. Their relationship was stronger than ever, and Shaine was finding her own way in Miguel's high-profile world while maintaining her identity as a DJ. The media's obsession with their relationship had waned, and they could finally breathe a sigh of relief. However, little did they know, a new crisis was just on the horizon, one that would challenge them in an entirely different way. Miguel's company, Alvaro Enterprises, had been rapidly expanding, with new ventures and investments in different industries. As the CEO, Miguel had worked tirelessly to ensure the company's success, but his rapid expansion plans had drawn the attention of rival corporations. One rival in particular, Kane Industries, run by a cunning and ruthless businessman named Victor Kane, had been keeping an eye on Miguel's every move. Victor was known for playing dirty, using any means necessary to sabotage competitors. When Victor learned about Miguel's relationship with Shaine, He saw an opportunity to exploit what he believed to be Miguel's weakness. Despite Miguel's reputation as an intelligent and strategic leader, Victor believed that his relationship with a lowly radio DJ could be used against him. Victor set his plan into motion, hiring hackers to breach Alvaro Enterprises' private data and steal confidential business plans. He intended to leak these plans to the press, causing a public scandal that would undermine Miguel's leadership and tarnish the company's reputation. Shaine, meanwhile, had been working hard at her radio station, growing her audience and developing her career as a well-respected DJ. Despite her success, she still felt uneasy about her place in Miguel's world. She feared that she would never fully fit in, and though Miguel always reassured her, she couldn't shake the feeling that their differences might one day cause a rift between them. One evening, as Shaine prepared for her radio show, she received a cryptic email from an anonymous sender. The email contained stolen information from Alvaro Enterprises and a threatening message. If you care about Miguel's future, you'll keep your distance. If not, this information will be released to the media. Shaine was horrified. She didn't know who had sent the email, but she realized that Miguel's rivals were now targeting her as a way to get to him. She knew she had to tell Miguel, but fear gripped her. She didn't want to be the cause of any more problems for him, especially when his company was at stake. Despite her fear, Shaine knew she couldn't keep something like this from Miguel. She immediately went to his office to tell him about the email. When she arrived, she found Miguel in the middle of a tense meeting with his executives. There was a palpable tension in the room, as if something had already gone wrong. "Miguel, can I talk to you for a minute?" Shaine asked, her voice trembling slightly. Miguel could see the worry in her eyes and immediately dismissed the meeting. "What's wrong?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. Shaine showed him the email, and Miguel's face darkened as he read the message. "They're trying to use you to get to me," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Victor Kane has crossed a line." Miguel immediately called his security team and his legal advisors, instructing them to investigate the source of the email and fortify the company's digital defenses. But as they dug deeper, they uncovered something even more alarming. Someone inside Alvaro Enterprises had been leaking information to Victor Kane. The betrayal hit Miguel hard. He had always been careful about the people he trusted, but it seemed that even within his inner circle, there were those who were willing to sell him out for their own gain. Shaine could see the stress weighing heavily on Miguel. "We'll get through this," she said, taking his hand. "You've faced worse, and you've always come out on top." Miguel squeezed her hand, appreciating her support more than ever. "I'm not worried about the company," he admitted. "I'm worried about you. They're using you to hurt me, and I can't let that happen." Despite the growing danger, Miguel was determined to protect Shaine and his company. But as they uncovered more about the mole inside Alvaro Enterprises, it became clear that the betrayal wasn't just about business, it was personal. As the investigation into the mole continued, Shaine found herself increasingly caught in the crossfire. Victor Kane's threats escalated, with more emails and even a package sent to the radio station that contained private photos of her and Miguel. The message was clear. Victor wanted Shaine to back away from Miguel, or he would ruin her and Miguel's lives. Shaine felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. She had always been independent and self-sufficient, but now she was being targeted in a way that made her feel powerless. Despite Miguel's reassurances, she began to question whether being with him was worth the constant danger. Meanwhile, Miguel was working day and night to root out the traitor within his company and shut down Victor Kane's attacks. He knew that Kane was trying to break him by going after Shaine, and it infuriated him to think that someone would target the woman he loved just to hurt him. As the pressure mounted, Shaine began to pull away from Miguel, feeling like she was becoming a burden to him. "Maybe I should just leave," she told Mia one night after a particularly stressful day. "Maybe it would be better for both of us if I wasn't in the picture." Mia, always the voice of reason, shook her head. "Don't you dare. Miguel loves you, Shaine. You can't just run away because things are hard. That's not who you are." Shaine knew Mia was right, but the constant threats were taking a toll on her. She felt like she was living in a nightmare, with no way out, and just when things couldn't get worse, they did. One night, as Shaine was leaving the radio station, She was attacked by two men who tried to abduct her. Luckily, security intervened just in time, and the men fled, but the message was clear. Victor Kane was willing to go to any lengths to destroy her and Miguel. The attempted abduction was the last straw for Miguel. He knew he couldn't let Victor Kane get away with his attacks any longer. With the help of his legal team, security experts, and a few trusted allies within Alvaro Enterprises, Miguel put together a plan to take down Victor Kane once and for all. First, they uncovered the identity of the mole within Alvaro Enterprises, a senior executive named Thomas, who had been secretly feeding information to Kane in exchange for promises of wealth and power. Miguel confronted Thomas in a tense meeting, where Thomas confessed everything, hoping for leniency. "You betrayed me and this company," Miguel said coldly. "You won't just lose your job, Thomas. You're going to prison." With Thomas dealt with, Miguel turned his attention to Victor Kane. He had gathered enough evidence of Kane's illegal activities to bring him down, but instead of going directly to the authorities, Miguel decided to confront Kane himself. In a dramatic showdown at Kane's office, Miguel laid out all the evidence he had gathered. "You've tried to destroy me and the woman I love, but now it's over," Miguel said, his voice steady but full of fury. "I'm going to make sure you pay for everything you've done." Kane, realizing he was cornered, tried to bargain with Miguel, but it was too late. Miguel had already made arrangements with the authorities, and within hours, Kane was arrested for his crimes. With Victor Kane finally out of the picture, Shaine and Miguel could finally breathe easy. The threats were gone, the company was secure, and they could focus on their future together. In the aftermath of the ordeal, Shaine realized just how strong their love had become. They had faced challenges that would have broken most couples, but they had come through it all stronger than ever. Shaine knew now that she didn't have to fear being with Miguel. They were a team, and together, they could face anything. As they stood on the balcony of Miguel's penthouse, looking out over the city, Shaine smiled. "I never imagined my life would turn out like this," she said softly. Miguel wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "Neither did I," he admitted, "but I wouldn't change a thing." And in that moment, Shaine knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, stronger, braver, and more in love than ever before. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more delightful stories.